Welcome. This is Karen Hung, CEO and founder of Silver Rock Consulting. We work with clients on growth strategies and alignment to drive momentum into the marketplace. Today, we're so excited to have Frank Krejci, CEO of Strattec Corporation. It's a global corporation, and we are looking forward to hearing Frank's point of view. And Frank is also and has been a dear friend of ours for a long time. So Frank, welcome. And we'd love to kind of hear a little bit about your background and the companies. If you would share that with the audience, it'd be great.
Oh, happy to do that. Happy to be here, Karen, with you. Strattec was founded in 1908 as part of Briggs & Stratton Corporation. I was not a founder, I'll tell you that up front. 25 years ago, we spun off from Briggs as a separate company. We do about $500 million a year in sales, have 4,000 plus employees located in the US, Mexico, China, India, and we have partners in Europe. So we're really trying to cover the globe with automotive parts and try to support our customers not only with a wide range of product, but also a wide range of geography.
Well, given your global scope, what are you seeing in the world today in the midst of the pandemic, as well as what are you anticipating in the world?
Well, what I'm seeing, let me talk about outside of North America first, because China got hit hard with this at the beginning of February, sort of a month and a half before we did. China, our plants in China are really operating at almost full capacity back to where they were back in January. So they're doing well. The general economy, people are very cautious about flying or going on the high-speed train or anything like that. Restaurants are still fairly open or not very busy. India is totally shut down. Mexico, where we have 4 plants, is shut down the beginning of April, and it looks like they're going to be shut down not only all of April, but it looks like, if not all of May, most of May. So basically, our customers rely on a lot of parts out of Mexico, and as a result of that, they're shut down.
Well, Frank, given the situation you've been in, what are some ways that you all are remaining productive moving forward?
Well, there's a number of things that we're working on. Certainly, from the manufacturing side, we're taking it as an opportunity to balance some inventories, build up on some parts that we need. We're also taking time to do some maintenance projects and implement some continuous improvement projects. From the salaried side, we've been working and encouraging everybody to work remotely as much as they can. There's lots of projects going on from an engineering perspective and a planning perspective. So people are really pretty busy on a lot of project work right now. And I'm encouraging them not only to be emailing back and forth to each other, but to be talking to each other or having video conferences, because in the long run, I believe we'll come out with much better ideas and feel a much better connection by physically talking with each other.
Oh, that's good. You said a lot right there. You're using the time productively, even though your production lines may not be up. That's one. Another piece is you're really thinking through kind of new work habits that can drive into the future and the leadership around that. And one of the concepts we're thinking through right now is between the old and the new normal, there's this period that we're in, which is the emerging normal. And so how are people working now that will influence the future? And it really sounds like you're working with your team on that.
Well, we're looking at a few things. Obviously, we're finding out that there's a lot of things that we can do remotely, and there are some advantages to it, but there are also some disadvantages to it. And so we need to get a good balance. I'm looking forward to people returning to work, partly not only for the interaction, but partly for their own health and well-being. It's a very structured environment in the office, and so if we can teach people new habits, they're not there 24 hours a day. They're there, the 8 hours a day, and if they can go home with better habits to reduce the risk, we can't eliminate the risk. I can't be their mother, but I can reduce the risk, and I can hopefully give them or help them gain habits which will reduce the risk outside of work.
Frank, you're reminding me with some of your comments of your leadership and really being thoughtful around, a 360 view around the employees, right? Not just work habits, productivity, but also kind of personal care as well. Would you just spend a few minutes just to talk about leadership and leadership in these moments? What does that look like for you and your executive team?
Well, I'm meeting daily with my executive team, because things are changing literally day by day, and so I'm making sure everyone knows whatever we tell them today is not only may it change, it's likely to change tomorrow. So they got to stay flexible and all that. I think it's very critical that we communicate a lot, and so I am doing 2 emails a week, every Tuesday, every Friday, to all of our employees, and I tell them what's going on in the business, what our best outlook is as of today, and then I also talk about well-being, their mental, their financial, and their physical well-being, and I think that's very, very critical. So if we have a strong team who can handle the stress and challenges of all of this, we'll get through it. I'm very convinced that we give them all sorts of tips on how to handle stress. They can do things like show gratitude or appreciation to others. They can exercise. They can reduce the clutter around them. They can really try and put a smile on their face, and a little sense of humor is a real stress killer. So we try and do some things like that. And I think that's been, really very helpful. And we also try to set in these unprecedented times, I've learned in past disasters, I can't give them a roadmap. What I can do is I can give them a compass, a general direction that I know is going to change. They're not going to be criticized for making a mistake. I'd rather have them make a quick decision that's pretty good than take too much time to get a perfect decision. And so it's important for us to keep heading in the direction of the compass, keep it readjusting, and certainly it's very critical in my mind. If there's ever a time that I should be showing appreciation for the creativity and the efforts, it's now. So that's what we're doing.
Oh, that was pretty rich, Frank. I'll just recap a couple of key points that I heard. One is a cadence or discipline around the leadership. So your employees know when to expect to hear from you, and they can count on that, I imagine. Number 2, what I heard too was setting the culture and a culture of gratitude and thinking about ways to de-stress. Number 3, I love what you've said around setting a compass versus a roadmap so that you continue to point to your true north and staying grounded in that. That is fantastic. And then the next piece that I would just end on for now is your point around making decisions, making fast decisions, and then iterating and learning from that and moving forward. So that was a very rich response. Thank you for that, Frank. Frank, as we're starting to wrap up our time, there's a couple of other questions I hope we can touch on. One is, from a board perspective and your board, what are 1 or 2 things that they're thinking about?
Well, obviously a board perspective is, what strategies are we changing? And obviously in a crisis, how are we doing cash wise? Okay. So, and I think everybody has to focus on that first. And so we've been in a fortunate position. We've been paying down debt at a pretty good pace the last couple of years. So we're in good shape that way. Our board is also feeling very lucky right now. Talk about feeling grateful. In December, so 4 months ago, we closed out our pension fund and sold off the obligation to an insurance company. And we then distributed excess pension funds to our employees in their 401k. So even though we're looking, we just announced yesterday we're going to have some salary cuts and all of that. They got that benefit. And from a company perspective, if we hadn't done that, not only would our assets go down in the pension fund, but our liabilities would have gone up. And instead of being overfunded, we would have been millions and millions of dollars underfunded, which would have been a millstone around our neck for years to come. So the board is appreciative that the management team has decided to take salary cuts for the good of the company on a temporary basis. We've imposed salary cuts on all salaried people. Our employees, our production employees, we've given them the option to take voluntary layoffs, and it could be because they have children at home, they have elderly parents, or they're just afraid of getting sick. Whatever the reason, we're letting them take voluntary layoffs in order to minimize the stress and problems that they may have, and to do that without any attendance marks against them. So we're trying to work everybody together, try to be as flexible as possible, and the board is congratulating us on doing what we can to refocus our strategies, refocus our priorities, and try to keep moving forward.
That sounds great. Sounds like a strong board, Frank. And I know in past conversations you've mentioned that, especially with the fiscally minded, financial sustainability going forward for the company, and then ability to be flexible with strategy. That's great. The last piece I'd love to touch on, given that you're in the midst of this, is supply chain. You are supply chain to others, and others are supply chain to you. How are you seeing the supply chain working?
Well, that was a problem that we had a couple months ago, because we had a supply chain from China, and everything was shut down, and so really through the month of February and early March, we spent a lot of time working with our suppliers, and we were able to get through that. Okay. Now, yes, we are part of the supply chain to the GMs and the Fords and the Chryslers of the world. However, we've got the Mexican government literally shutting down everybody and not considering automotive to be an essential industry. Here in the U.S., we are considered an essential industry, and that gives me a little bit of flexibility with my plant here to do a modest amount of work, more to balance our business rather than any really significant production. So until the government decides that we can reopen plants, it's not just us shutting down our customers, it's many suppliers altogether that will be shutting down our customers.
Well, a lot to maneuver through for sure. Frank, as we wrap up, any final words of either wisdom or encouragement to our listeners?
Well, I think you look at all of this, and you just have to keep adjusting as you go. I've been encouraging people to start gratitude diaries. Look for even small things that are a positive during the day, and write them down. Giving somebody, I can't give them a real pat on the back anymore, but I can give them a verbal pat on the back. And I tell you, a little humor, a little gratitude, a little appreciation really goes a long way. And so, the issue is, you really want to keep your team strong, because one way or another, somehow, you're going to come out the other end. It may not be as good as you like or as good as you want, but nonetheless, you got a strong team. It's amazing how committed they are to try to move us forward, and make sure they understand we believe in them and we're appreciative for all that they're doing.
That's great. Well, Frank, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. We heard about supply chain, about different governments and sovereignty, about a board perspective manufacturing, and most of all, we heard a lot about leadership and the compass. And so, Frank, as we close out, thank you again for your time. And we really want to say we're very grateful for you and all that you're doing. I know not only at Strattec as the CEO, but also I'm aware of your work in the community, and you're just really touching a lot of different lives. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And in return, I'm grateful for you doing this. Hopefully there's an idea or two that can help somebody else. So thank you for doing that.
Indeed. All right, this is Karen Hum from Silver Rock Consulting signing off for now. Thanks for joining us today.